One consistent criticism we found with website builders is that they can often feel a little boxy, constrained, and, dare I say it, templated. So to tackle this assumption, today I'm going to share with you some of my tips for how we can break out from the box and build bespoke looking websites that are interesting, unique, and we're going to be using the Fluid engine in Squarespace to achieve this. I thought I'd show you some examples of how we design bespoke looking websites using website builders. In my opinion, we get the best of both worlds. We're underpinned by a platform that's easy to pick up, easy to learn, and to replicate key layouts. But at the same time, we can now, with Fluid engine, just take it that extra mile. We'll be taking images, summary blocks, and text right to the edge of our screens. And I always use an hourglass approach. We can go from wide content to narrow, constrained content, guiding the eye to key information, and then on key pages, bringing it back out to make use of the full browser width. As web designers, we're constantly striking the balance between limited retail space on our screens before scrolling, but at the same time, we don't want to be packing too much information in that everything becomes convoluted and cluttered. It's an art form, it takes time. In my case, it's taken the best part of 2 decades to get to a point where I'm really comfortable building new web layouts that look unique, bespoke, but still adhere to an overarching structure. So I think that's enough of an introduction. Let's crack on with some of these designs using Squarespace. For this tutorial, we're using a copy of the SquareForge, which is created by a team at Pixelhaze. There's information in the description if you want to find out more about it. But essentially, it gives us a load of templates that we can use as a starting point to build our layouts. These are in addition to all of the standard ones you get within Squarespace. So what I find is this gives us more flexibility. And so I'm going to go with a 3-column signpost. And we're going to choose this one here. And what I'm going to do is take these 2 images either side and bring them out to the edge of the screen, providing a unique look and feel. Instead of having to build all of these blocks from the ground up, I can click Edit on this page, then click on Save Section to save it as a favorite, exit out of that, and I've created a new demo welcome page to start with. If I click Edit here, we can see the option to add a new section. Instead of choosing the Squarespace standard sections, which, if like me, you might be a bit sick of seeing these same photos over and over again. So that's why we went with simple black, grey, or white blocks instead of images on our own structures. And we're not going to use the blank section either. We're going to go to Saved Sections, and here we can see the item that we've already saved. Nothing too out of the ordinary so far. If I just click and hold on this image, start to drag it, we can see that we've got 24 blocks going across the width of the page. That's a 24-column grid coming into play. And as we can see, it finishes this side here and all the way over on this side. I'm not releasing the image at the moment because I don't want it to place. To make the most of this, I can actually click and drag the image over to the right, and we can see that the new bounding box goes right the way to the edge of the screen. Likewise, I can do the same with the left-hand image. This is just a really simple, easy to set up image format, of which then I can start adjusting the widths. One thing to note is when we add content, we can't just bring it to this point here, or even an image to this point here. It either has to be to the content width, going down this line, or right to the edge of the page. There's a problem with this is that text can look unruly if we bring that right to the edge of our screen. So in this case, we're not going to. We're going to keep the content nice and structured in the middle with some padding between each option. So there might be a little bit of playing around to get everything working. Alternatively, we don't need to keep a full content width. And I need to drag beyond that block so you can see the gold line just to bring it back to the original spacing. And now we can see that the text has more white space around it, so it doesn't go to the edge of the block. However, the titles and the images have a much smaller dividing line between them. So now we can do one more thing, and that is change the width of the lines between each of these 3 images. If I go to Edit Section in the top right-hand corner, we can see the gap option here. If I choose it as 0, it makes that whole section compact, and that means we'd have 3 different images without a border between them. Or we can choose the border option, and we can fine-tune the spacing. So by default, I believe it's 11 pixels, but we can bring it right the way out to something like 40 to make it look like a grid gallery. Still not as wide as those original blocks, but it's got more breathing space between our images. And likewise, we can do it to 30, which is one of my go-to options when I want a clear divide between 3 different images. What I'll do now is I'm actually going to drop 3 images in so we can see how this looks with real content in place. And I've got 3 stock images of runners. I'm actually going to be converting this website from our default content to a running club website, hence why those photos are in place. Now we have 3 images going across that section. And from here, we can choose to centrally align these text blocks. Bear in mind, if we select multiple ones, we can't apply that effect to 2 at the same time. So we just need to do a little bit of manual fine tuning. And again, click on the pencil icon. And this time we're going to put it into a block with small padding. And we can change the color of our text and change it to centrally aligned. So this is a great little way of controlling how visible the text is over top of a photo background. And we can do the same for this as well. Just in case remembering the settings, what I'd often do is actually change the styling first once I've got everything in place. And this is just a little time hack I find. It's easier to change the text than it is to change the styling over multiple items. And so I could replace this text block with this one. Might still need to change the color. And there we go. So although the content doesn't align with the images, it does give you an idea of how this can be laid out and to break out content in the simplest way outside of that content frame. We can then proceed to do rather different things with our images. For example, if I go to design, we can choose to put our images in shapes. And in this one, instead of changing it to a shape, I'm going to round the top left and bottom left. So this will be the first and last box within this because it goes around clockwise. But if we just go to 100, maybe 200, let's try 250. Just doing a bit of trial and error here. This one as well, 250. And then we've got a rounded shape that side and the same then with this one here. So top right, 250, bottom right, 250. Now we've taken something that looked rather different, and I'll just bring it in as a section above, just so we can remember what we started with, which is a very safe, traditional website signposting layout, to something that is wholly unique, breaking outside of the box. We can take it a step further, and if we go with the rounded corner approach, we can round the corners on each of these blocks individually. Same approach to create that same overarching flow. And of course, we can do the same with our buttons. Hope this has given you some inspiration. It'd be great to know what you think. Please leave a comment and stay tuned for the next tutorial where we'll take this one step further with galleries. In our last tutorial, we created this section from this starting template. In episode 2 of this series of Breaking Out of the Box in Squarespace, we are going to take a gallery and show the differences between adding a gallery constrained and full width. So if I click on Edit, and I want to create a new section, let's just add one in here. We can go to the images starting point, but this time I'm going to start with a blank section. Just to differentiate it from the section above and below, I'm going to change the color, maybe just to the darkest. So we've got a black background here so we can see the canvas that we're working within. Another approach is I could go to the sections, go down to images, and add in a list style page. But for now, we're just going to add a gallery block into the page. So if I click Add Block, then Add Gallery, and we've got our lovely Squarespace default images that I'm nowhere near sick of yet. And we can see that this is a standard grid gallery. We can change the type of the gallery if we want to a carousel, slideshow with thumbnails, and we can manipulate and edit these as we choose. However, this can look a little constrained. So as we covered in the last tutorial where we took the content out to the edges, we can do the same with galleries. So the obvious option may be take the gallery to full screen, as shown in this example here. And then we could remove the full screen option on this section to mean that that gallery is going to use the full height of the section. So that's one more of the obvious ways of bringing a gallery to full screen. But I'm going to show you another one. This is where we have the gallery offset to the right, allowing us to put in a text block to the left. I'm just going to put some placeholder text in here. And this allows us to come up with unique layouts for our page. If we feel that this is a bit constraining, it's certainly increasing the height of that page. And there's no way to shrink that up. So what I can do is double click on this gallery and instead go to Design and then switch the type of gallery over to a different format. For example, grid. So we can move this text block up, create ourselves some more space. And now we have our grid gallery offset to the right. From here, we can decide how many items per row. Therefore, how many rows we're going to have within our gallery. To decide the number of rows, it really depends on how many images you upload or add into your gallery. But there we go. Different gallery styles being built with this offset gallery here is a good example. All done within the native Squarespace website builder with no plugins or third-party extensions. Fluid Engine has certainly been a game changer to create advanced layouts in Squarespace. I'd love to know how you get on. Any ideas or concepts that you've been able to create that take your galleries outside the box. As we head into the third and final part of this out-of-the-box series for Squarespace, we'll just have a quick look over what we've already created. We've taken a structure like this from our SquareForge and turned it into this structure here, bringing the images right to the edge of the screen, rounded the corners to make it look unique. Likewise, we took a gallery showing how you can change a slideshow, carousel or grid gallery and bring it once again out to the edges. This time we offset the text to the left. For this final tutorial, we're going to do the same with summary blocks. So I'm just going to save that layout and we're going to head back into our Forge layouts here. More information available in the description if you want to find out more. And from this section, we're going to find summary blocks. So we can see at the top here, we've got the carousel blocks and we're going to have a look at some of the examples there. We've got standard options here that fix to the content width of our Squarespace website. Likewise with these, with just different numbers of blog posts per row. You can see that the images are missing. When we duplicate websites in Squarespace, sometimes it decides not to bring every single image across, which is a little strange, but it happens. But this is a really good example of one that's been brought outside of the standard box structure to use the full width of the screen. So that's what we're going to be replicating. And here's another one as well. But instead of just saving this and adding this in as it is, we're instead going to build this from the ground up. So if I go to the welcome page that I've created as a demo and then edit, then add a new section, and we're going to add a blank section. I'm going to change this to a light grey or silver backdrop color so we can differentiate it from the other sections. And next up, we're going to add a text block. I copied the text from that other example and we're just going to paste it in here ready. And I'm going to go into the page settings and I'm just going to change the height to small, just so we've got a little bit of breathing space above and below, but we're not using a huge amount of white space. In this example, we want to keep it relatively compact. If I go to add a new block and I'm going to add in this summary block, and I've got a number of different options, and instantly I'm going to drag it right the way to the right-hand side so we can see the bounding box. Now means that this is extending to the end. We can now go into settings. I'm going to choose to link up the demo page, and now we can go in and change the number of items. But in my case, I'm going to change it to 3, and we're going to change it from a wall to a carousel. So 3 items in total, 3 items per row. Or alternatively, I can just demonstrate if we were to go up to 9, just to show you how that looks. We can also change things like the ratio of the image to customize that section further. Next up, we can change the size of the text. So if I go large, we've got a correlation then between the content on the left-hand side here and those titles on the right. And we've got a unique looking section on that page. We can finally go into the section options. We can choose to turn off or on the fit screen option. And we can change the colors if we choose to. So there we have it. Nice, unique layouts that break out of that content frame again and make use of the full width of our web page layout. And if I look through all of these examples here, but at the same time, we've still got control over the look of the layouts. We don't have a scenario where this text is going from edge to edge and our eyes having to scan from all the way on the left side of a large screen all the way to the right. We don't have issues with white space, we've got consistency. And as we expand and collapse the screen, the size of this summary block will change accordingly, as will the gap on this side. But this will remain relatively the same and in line with other content on our page. As designers, we're always problem solving, always looking at the two sides of the coin to get the right balance in our overall designs. Practice makes perfect. I'd always recommend just jumping onto a website builder like Squarespace and just having a play. Hope you've enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.